It owes this to its peoples. It owes this also to the humanist values which inspired the founding fathers of Europe. And I said this at this morning's meeting. France put 3 points on the agenda. Europe has agreed, and our country has been heard. We today have made powerful operational decisions with results which should be visible before the end of the year on 3 topics: the PNR, European PNR, weapons, firearms, and controls on the border. As regards the PNR airline passenger data, this is indispensable for fighting against terrorism, particularly in order to follow the movements of terrorists who come back from foreign countries. Before the end of the year, we want the PNR airline passenger data system to become a useful tool which allows us to track the movements of people who seek to attack us. Internal European flights mandatorily must be included in the PNR plan, and the conservation of data must be sufficiently long, 1 year, not 1 month, as it was initially drafted in the initial drafting of the document. The data must be available to the intelligence services and the counter-terrorist services. So 1 year for preserving data. 1 month was certainly not serious. As you know, negotiations are underway with the European Parliament. No French citizen, no European citizen would understand that we continue to prevent the implementation of the PNR, particularly as it contains provisions for protecting individual freedoms. We know that the PNR would have been very useful in order to counter the actions of Medine Emouche, who committed a crime here in Brussels in May 2014. The fight against illicit trafficking in weapons, in firearms, must also be a priority. And I'd like to thank the Commission and the Member States for having adopted last Wednesday the regulations implementing the neutralization of firearms. That was a request which we had made a long time ago, and we couldn't wait any longer. We have waited too long to take urgent measures, so this regulation will be a key instrument for fighting against the illicit movement of firearms which have not been destroyed. I would also like to thank the Commission warmly for having presented the revision of the directive on firearms. This draft directive contains some interesting provisions which France will support, notably the extension of the scope of the regulations on knives and other similar weapons, and the more rigorous control over the sale of weapons on the Internet. Negotiations on this document will start immediately in order to hasten its implementation. In France, I announced last Friday, a few hours before the attacks, the setting up of a plan for fighting against weapons illegally held in order to contribute, in order to help the EU to take the appropriate measures. Finally, we will strengthen the fight against trafficking in illegal weapons in the Balkans. This is a key issue. And with Thomas de Maizière, I went to the Balkans in 2014, and we asked the European Commission to come up with an operational action plan before the end of the year. Finally, the strengthening of border controls, border checks, the reinforcing of border checks, particularly in the light of the recent events, is indispensable for protecting European citizens. We've asked asked for this for many months. So the European Commission has accepted to submit by the end of the year a proposal for reforming the Schengen border code in order to make it possible to have border checks and controls at all external borders, including people who benefit from free movement. This is a crucial change and a major demand made by France. These checks will be carried out on the basis of access to European databases, the SIS database, the Interpol database, which also contains crucial data on the descriptions of people who are wanted. This implies better sharing of information between member states and real-time provision of data in European databases highlighting the identities of foreign terrorists. As regards we mustn't call into question the basic rights, of course. We have asked all migrants who enter the Schengen space, the Schengen area, should be subject to security checks with reference to the relevant databases, visa information, and the databases. The states where the migrants arrive for the first time will be given support in this regard. France has proposed these measures. France recommends the setting up of a border force, which will become a specialized unit in the future. We must continue to work on reducing inflows of migrants from Greece, and we must intensify our dialogue with Turkey, and we must also hasten the return of migrants to their countries of origin when they don't qualify for asylum. I indicated quite clearly this morning to my European colleagues that France will keep border checks, which it has reintroduced since last week, as long as the terrorist threat requires this. This is necessary for the protection and security of French citizens in the context of serious threats. We are continuing with the Ministry of Finance the fight against the financing of terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, France has been asking for these measures to be taken for over a year and a half. Europe is determined now, but we cannot wait for another tragedy like the one that occurred last week to take these measures. Let's take these measures immediately, and let's show to all Europeans that the union of democracies will be stronger, will prevail over the union of terrorists.